to another in the video series Operating the Cloud Control Center. In this session, we will cover assigning users to customer tenants. In this session, we'll focus on three topic areas. First, we will add a new user to an existing customer. Then we will assign that new user to one of the customer's tenants. And last, we will demonstrate importing an existing user from within a tenant to your cloud domain. Once you sign into the Cloud Control Center, the first step is to create the user within the specific customer that you're using. Users are first created within customers, and then the users are assigned to customer tenants. So we're going to navigate to Customer Management, Customers. At the top, we see a list of all of the customers in the landscape. We are going to highlight and choose the one that we want to work with. In this case, New Customer, the one that we created in a previous video in this series. And then to create a user, the bottom section of the screen, the display, we choose User Management. No users currently exist for this customer, so we will click the Add button. The first step is to enter a domain username. This name should be all in lowercase letters and can be a mix of letters and numbers. We suggest, as a best practice, that you make these domain users generic, perhaps a concatenation of an abbreviation of the customer name and a counter, as opposed to usernames themselves. Remember that these domain usernames have to be unique across the entire landscape. So let's use something like new CST01. Let's check the name to make sure that it does not exist anywhere else in the domain. It does not, so we get the confirmation window appear. If it did exist, the section here that says username exists in domain would populate, and you would not get the confirmation window, and so you would have to choose another name. So any WCST01 does not exist, we can proceed to use it. So we enter a password. The password has to be conforming to the security constraints. So let's enter a valid password, re-enter it, and click the Yes button. Since the user does not already exist in a domain and the password and confirmed password match, we now can add the user with a status of active, or if you choose to create it inactive, for the time being you could do so, but we're going to go and create this user with an active status. And you see successful completion. The user now appears in the user list for the customer. In order for this user to be able to access any of the tenants, we now have to assign it to the tenants of the customer that we wish this user to have access to. So we navigate to the Tenants menu choice, scroll down till we find the tenant that we want this person to have access to. It happens to be at the top, so we highlight that tenant and move to User Management. From here, we click the Add button. We are presented with a list of customer users at the top and cloud operators at the bottom. Cloud operators can span multiple customers by virtue of their scope. Since I am signed in as a cloud operator, I can assign other cloud operators to this tenant. And the top section shows me the existing customer users that are not already assigned to this tenant. So I'm going to go ahead and select my new CST01 user. If I wanted this user to be a regular user and then assign authorizations from within Business One during the implementation process, I would just stop there and say save. However, I could also opt to make this user a super user or a power user. Please note that super user here does not mean the same as it means within Business One, and that user maintenance super user checkbox at the top. Here in the cloud, super user means a cloud operator. If you wanted to make this user a super user within Business One and have authorization to all functionality, you would check the power user. I'm going to go ahead and make that choice and say save. The process completes successfully, and I now see that the user is created as a valid user within that tenant. Lastly, I'm going to show you how to create a new user by importing the user from within an existing tenant. This is helpful when you have imported a schema from outside of your cloud landscape into the cloud. For instance, maybe when you are taking a customer from an on-premise installation and bringing them into your cloud landscape, the users will already have been created inside the tenant, inside the database, and you now need to create that user within your domain. To do that, let's scroll down to another tenant, let's say the Canadian demo database, and let's say import users. The program has searched the tenant and tells you all of the usernames which are available for import. I select one and I create a new domain user. Check the name to make sure that it doesn't exist. It does not. Enter a password. Say yes. And add the user. And you see the user has been created. The domain user is user001, which equates to the user code Tom within the associated tenant. That concludes this video in the Operating the Cloud Control Center series. We hope that you found it helpful, and you will view the other videos in this series.